Good evening. Today is the 25th of May and it's time for yet another instalment in the very vague, rambling, generally unimportant and a little bit unprepared vlogs, which I know so many of you on the channel enjoy. So I was just thinking about something today and it just cropped up into my mind. And we're going to be talking about, can you still afford to run your car? I'm just passing a petrol station on the right hand side. This is our local station in Eastleigh, and the price at the moment is 174 pence per litre for E10 unleaded. Obviously the forbidden fuel is even higher, but we don't talk about diesels on this channel, viewers. Something that I've observed recently, and it's all a consequence of what's going on in Eastern Europe at the moment, is that a lot of people either have said they can't afford to run their current cars, or they're just finding ways to, you know, cut down on costs, really, because of what's happened in Russia and also in Ukraine. And it is a horrific thing that's happened. The thousands of people that have died on either side, whether they be civilian or soldiers, is really awful. I've been to Russia myself actually 3 times, and it is an amazing country. I've not made it over to Ukraine, but I imagine that's really great as well. I do know somebody who is Ukrainian, and I just find it really sad what's happened. It's just so unbelievably sad. People who've been affected in that way, a lot of people displaced and all that kind of stuff. And you know, we don't face threats in this country at the moment, so we can be thankful for that. But as a secondary consequence of what's going on, and some other things as well, it just means that the price of fuel is incredibly high at the moment. It seems to be going up at that petrol station there. But as an example, sometimes it's like 5 pence a day at the moment, and it is getting really crazy. I filled up my mother's Mercedes earlier on today, and it was over £100 to put in about 60 litres of petrol. It just runs standard E10, of course. It's 2017, so that's not a problem in that way, but it's still really expensive. It's so expensive that actually, just personally speaking, when we take the Rover off the road next month, that you know you would have heard about the sort of work we've had to do on it and things like that in the main channel update. This is recorded 25th of May, and obviously some of you will see this in June or something. Those of you who are channel members, you'll see this a lot sooner. But once that Rover has its work done next month, we are only going to be taking it on long journeys if it's to a show or something like that. We're not going to use it for general usage anymore because it's just too expensive. 29 miles per gallon in a 19-year-old car with a V6 engine is just not, it's just not really what we want to be doing. And it's very sad, but I know so many other people who are doing it. Mike Humble, who some of you will know, one of the key people in AR Online, or we used to call Austin Rover Online, site for many hours of enjoyment. And you know, I attended the 20th anniversary of AR Online last year. He's selling his beautiful Rover 75 2-litre V6 that I drove on no budget reviews last year because he needs to find something that's cheaper to run. Alex from Alex's Assets, her partner Lyndon, he's selling his Metro, and he's bought Skoda Octavia Estate. One of my friends whose car is also from the MG Rover area and has appeared on no budget reviews, I won't tell you who it is, but he's actually going to sell it, and he's going to buy something that's cheaper to run. There's so many stories of this happening. Mr. Harwood from Rover Joe, he's going to have a different car because it's just cheaper to run something else than his current one, his Rover 214 that some of you might have seen on hopefully we'll see the no budget reviews. Hopefully we're going to be filming that this week. So many people in the last couple of weeks, and even Ian Seabrook, he's basically decided that a V6 Camry and a 600 engine Australian Ford are not possibly the most suitable cars for everyday transport, so he's got himself a Berlingo. And these are people who are sort of hardcore fans of running around in old cars, but even me, we've used that Rover 45 V6 as a daily car for 2 years, and it's just too expensive now to do it. Ultra Low Emission Zones and clean air zones aren't helping either. They really aren't helping, because you can't take a car, if it's a petrol, that's before about 2005 in there, with some exceptions, but generally it's after 2005. So Rover is compliant with that. Also, you've got to make sure your car runs on E10, and a lot of cars from sort of before 2010, there are some sort of sketchy areas of whether or not they're compliant. Fortunately, the 45 is okay in both the ultra emission zone and with E10. But a lot of these cars I'm mentioning are not. There are problems. And the forbidden fuel is not necessarily the answer, because if you want to go in an ultra low emission zone in London, for example, with a forbidden fuel car, it has to be a car from after 2015. And so it's just becoming ridiculous. I actually met somebody the other day who just bought a 2013 Citroen C1, and she said the car was worth £3,000. I had to pay £5,000 for it because this is what people are wanting to buy. And I understand that entirely. It's a little tiny car with a 1 litre 3-cylinder engine, but it does really crazy fuel economy. I'm hoping to get something like that on the channel quite soon, just to have a go. Like, I've never actually driven a C1. I've driven an Igo like that, but not the C1. And the crazy second-hand car prices at the moment, up to sort of between 30 and 50% in some cases. A lot of these older cars that don't have good fuel economy aren't compliant with ultra low emission zones, and sometimes don't run E10. They're becoming difficult to operate on a daily basis, and it's absolutely crazy. There's no particular one solution to this other than just changing cars we have. I mean, I'll be using the Mercedes more, because that gets over sort of 47 miles per gallon on long motorway runs, and of course it's designed to run on E10. My mother at the moment just doesn't really use it, so it's good for me to use it, but it is a shame, because I love driving the Rover. It's fantastic. I'm in the Sanyong today because I don't get a chance to drive this very much. My lady wife is always driving this. She goes to work and does all sorts of journeys in this. So, and this car actually has a petrol flap that says use E10 inside it, so there's no problem with that. But with with potentially a recession, although I'm not sure if it will be one or not at the moment, who knows, and inflation at about 9%, and people having crazy energy bills and crazy food bills and things like that, can you afford to run your car? Have your habits actually changed? Are you considering getting a different car? Or in case of a friend of mine whose parents don't actually live in this country, they're coming over for a couple of months, and they've just bought themselves a car just to run around in whilst they're here. They looked at the cost of hiring a car, and it was rather expensive, so they decided to just buy themselves a little cheap runabout, and they got themselves a 2007 Mini R56, I think it is. Not really my favourite car, because they have a Prince engine, and there's one particular type of petrol engine that we don't talk about on this channel, viewers, and that's the Prince engine, and this one has it. But it's, I think they paid £4,000 for it. £4,000 for a Prince engine 50-year-old Mini. Isn't that insane? But anyway, he after they leave, and a couple of months after they've arrived and go back to where they're living, he, I think, said that they're going to keep it around. And I said, are you going to be driving it? Because they've only got one car and there's two of them. He said, no, I'm not. I have an electric bicycle, and we live near a station, and you know, it's a folding bike, so I can just get onto the train wherever I want and then cycle where I need to go. It's not a problem. So I don't really need a second car. And I think that's the world that we're sort of living in at the moment. You know, people are being sort of told that electric cars are the way forward, and in many ways they are, but in other ways, you know, they're not, because the purchase price of those is really, really expensive. So it's not the solution to everybody. If you can afford one, that might be a really good option. I've driven some fantastic electric cars in my time. The MG5, MG ZS, Volkswagen ID3. There's loads of ones that I have really enjoyed, but they are quite expensive still, and we're still really waiting for the price of those to go down. So maybe that's not the solution for everybody. So I leave it to you. You know, this question: can you afford to run your car anymore? Thank you ever so much indeed once again for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, leave a comment below. It really does help. And if you want to join the channel and get early video access, people on the Set Toledo channel membership tier and above get to see this the day it goes out, of the day afterwards. So that might be something that you'd be interested in. Don't feel any obligation, of course, but it really does sort of help. And thank you ever so much indeed once again for watching.